Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Andrew Lacey. It's June the 30th, 2025, and half the year has gone by. It's never too late to make some the right changes or to make a change. There's no way in the next 30 minutes I can get everything I want in and to kind of demonstrate by making changes how much your life can change. This morning's call at 7:30 was on culture, the culture today. Somebody recently told me um, if you raise your children, you get to spoil your grandchildren. But if you spoil your children, you have to raise your grandchildren. That's sad. But that's not the call today. That's just a culture we have that we want to give everything to our children. I always say if you make it easy for your children, life is going to be difficult. Another statement is if you get up and do the hard things, life is easy. But if you get up and only do the easy things, life can be hard. But I want to go back to culture, and I was using this morning Abraham as an example that when God told him to pack up his tent and move to a country that he'd never been to. Please do not think I'm comparing myself in any way to God. I'm just trying to demonstrate in a way that it's so easy to go back and do what you're doing instead of making a change. And change is difficult, particularly in the beginning. I want to give you a couple of examples today of changes that I made that changed my life. But he asked Abraham to pack up and to move away. And they moved to a foreign land, started over. And God had promised Abraham that he would be the father of many nations. But here they were, and they wouldn't have any children. And Sarah said to Abraham, hey, why don't you get this contraband or why don't you get this whatever and let her have a baby for you since I'm too old? It can't happen now. I'm past due. It's too late for me to be able to give you anything. So she was going back to that old culture because over where they were living, that was okay to do that. See, so many times when I'm trying to help someone to have the Lacey Way is a different culture. And I'll start off this morning by saying, I changed the culture of my business because if you look, my first 8 years, I had anywhere from 24 to 27 closings. I worked 7 days a week. I did open houses every weekend. I did flyers. I did brochures. I did everything everyone else was doing in the 80s. When I went to Salt Lake City in 91, I made a cultural change. I came back and instead of being passive, and understand 9 out of 10 agents are passive. They're waiting for business to come to them. They're waiting for the phone to ring. They're waiting for someone to call. They're waiting for someone to say they want to do business. And I came back and instead of waiting, I made the phone ring. I decided that I was going to be proactive. The difference between passive and proactive is night and day. But you have to be proactive at doing the right things. You just can't pick up the phone and call any Tom, Dick, or Harry. You have to be target. You have to target certain groups, certain people, certain areas, and you have to be certain in what you're doing. And most people, when I meet them, are not certain that it's going to work. If you would trust in the process, and that's the first thing, trust in the process. So a culture change that I made. My dad was a pipe fitter. My dad made about $25,000 a year. He worked hard every day. He had made me go to what was called Spartanburg Technical College at night when I was a junior in high school, so I would have a trade. He made me go take welding. I didn't like it, didn't want to be there. And I think he was trying to say, you don't want to be a welder the rest of your life. You want to go to college. So I went to college. But I failed after one semester. But I went in the Marine Corps. That was a cultural change. You get up every day. So the second thing is follow a daily schedule. Very few people less than 10% of the people follow their daily schedule. I'm not talking about agents. I'm talking about all businesses. And today I'm talking about businesses. Do you have a business of the right culture? Get up and dress professionally. Not, says dress to impress. I don't want to dress to impress. I want to dress to be the most impressive when I meet with someone, by the way I act, by the way I talk, by the way I communicate. But don't kid yourself. People that are dressed professionally are looked at differently than people that are not. That's just one small little thing. In the Marine Corps, dress was most important. When I was at the Marine Corps Barracks 8th and I, Washington, D.C., we did Wednesday night and Friday night parades there in Washington. And one of the most things was how meticulous our uniform looked. Our shoes were shined, the way we stood, the way we saluted, the way we carried ourselves. How do you carry yourself in front of people in business? But in my life, I don't know if it was innate inside of me or because I was such a average person, or actually I was one of the smallest children in school, all the way through high school. I didn't know I just had that drive that I wanted to grow up and become the best. So I went in the Marine Corps. And by the grace of God and trying to be the best in boot camp, this is from the Marine Corps. This is from Camp David. As I served the President of the United States and was awarded this as a Presidential Guard. I could have been a great Marine, but instead of just being a great Marine that was at Camp David, or a great Marine that was in the Marine Corps, I became in the top 1%, actually 0.01 of 1% of all Marines served the President of the United States. You serve the President either through the helicopter that he takes, that's called Marine One, or you're at the White House to look good, to open the door for him at the Rose Garden, or you're selected to guard the President at Camp David. And I was selected because I wanted to be the best. So write this down. I want to be the best. The best is not that much harder than being average. It just takes a few things. It takes getting up every day to get better. It takes getting up and giving a little bit more. I said this: leaders lead by example. And over the last 5 years, I don't think there's been a better example of people that I've worked with in being a leader and demonstrating doing more, giving more, getting better and better. All of us have that culture that from our parents and where we were raised and where we grew up. But you need to sometimes change that culture you're in. I said this morning, if you're always yelling at your children, if you're always negative, that's who they're going to become. If you talk about people, that's what they're going to do. If you don't go to work, that's what they're going to do. They watch you. You are the greatest example for your children and grandchildren, and you could change their culture. My dad was one of the hardest workers, and that's why I am such a hard worker. That's why I work. I don't have to go to work. I don't consider what I do today working. Somebody asked me recently, what do you do for a living? And I said, I change people's lives. That is truly my mantra, to change someone's life. So this morning, I'm going to ask a few people. I want this to be understood that at any time you can make a decision to change. At any time you can make a decision to have a better business. At any time you can make a decision to have a better life. But it will be because of the choices you make each day. The choice to come to work. The choice to do the right things, the activities that's going to generate income. The choice to get better at those activities. When I showed you that I had 24, 19, 15, 18, 21, 23, 24, and 27 closings. I would say that's a failure because I made less than 50,000 a year. But by seeing people that were having 100 closings, 110, 120, I said, why can't I have that? And the change was to come in and run real estate as a business, but more was to become a listing agent. And that's what I get up and teach each day. It teaches you to become a listing agent, which lets you control the market. Listings are your inventory in real estate. The more inventory you have, the more income you can produce. Do you want to have more income? Go out, and I'm going to demonstrate that this morning. Before I do that, see, the year I went from 27 to 60, I think I took 68 listings. The year I went from 60 to 75, I took 83 listings. And the year I had 163 closings, I took about 175, 178 listings. And by doing that, I went from being below average, becoming one of the top 10 agents internationally. See, I changed the culture of sit around and waiting for business and waiting for someone to call me or waiting. I'm not saying you can't get business at an open house. I'm not saying you can't get business from waiting for someone to call. That's how I got my business the first 8 years. But to be able to have the control of the income and the time that you work is priceless. The Lacey Way is a different culture. The Lacey Way is a culture instead of selling is helping. What's the 7 steps to prospect? Prospect every day, prospect standing up, prospect with a positive attitude, prospect with the mindset to help someone. Never did people think about, how did you go from 75 to 163? Because in 92, I got up and started saying, it's going to be a great day. But then I started saying, standing in front of the sink, someone needs my help today. And from that day in 1992, October, because I always start around September, the last 3 months of the year, I start preparing for the next year because I know it's going to be 90 to 110 days that I start seeing the results in a normal market. I was never in a market where houses sold in 24, 48 hours, 72 hours. It was 90 to 110. The average time on the market was 110 days. So if I'm going to start something in January, I'm not going to see the results till April. So many times I work with people that expect these results immediately, and it takes time. And I hope you understand today, this is where I'm going with this. But by making that cultural change, that I'm going to get up to help someone, that someone needs my help, and I'm the best person to help them. That wasn't arrogant. That was my true belief because of being in real estate for 10 years and because of having 60 closings and because of having 75 closings. Who was better to help them than me? No one. And that's why I try to get the people that I coach to push harder on the presentation. Because if you're following the Lacey Way, you're better than anyone else at telling the seller what he needs to do or she needs to do to get it sold by being totally upfront with them on what it's going to take to get it sold. That's a cultural thing. With that being said, I was writing this weekend. I always write, and then I have somebody read it to me. But I was writing and I was going back, last week I had people that was on the call more than 10 years talking about their business. But this morning, I just want to talk about people that are making, and I would like for you, if I ask you, I would like Vanessa and Quintus and Tyrese and Daniel to come on the call. And I'd like to start with Vanessa in Washington, D.C. and say, Vanessa, I met you 3 years ago, and the background is you started the program, you were getting ready to have success. In fact, I bammed you, and you were getting ready, you had done the work, you had put forth the effort, you had gotten better, and you was getting ready, you started getting appointments, maybe got a couple of listings, but then all of a sudden you became sick, and you were sick for a year, were in the hospital, we'll use a cane to walk. But what I'm so proud of you is that when you got well, the first thing you did was come back and got back in the program. So in the last year, could you kind of share where you were when I met you, and kind of say where you are today, and what was that cultural change, or what was that one thing that was the most helpful to you? So, with each one of you, would you share the one thing that was the most helpful to you? Hello,
Morning, Andrew, can you hear me?
I can. Good morning.
Good morning. So, when I first met you, I was making $0. Um, when I started the program, like you said, I had a couple of listings and I earned $30,000. And like you said, I came sick, walking with a cane, saw you at one of the programs with my cane, um, had surgery, and then jumped right back into the program. And then I just took off from there. Um, I was able to earn $200,000. Uh, I was in the Washingtonian, which I'm so happy that was my goal. And you helped me do that by helping me with my confidence and giving me the scripts to go out and get those listings. So for that, I'm forever grateful.
And that's the word I would use. That was what I gave you, was confidence that you could do it. And when you go from zero income, and I know you made 30,000 before you got sick, but to think about every year for the rest of your life, you're going to make 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, up to 500,000, because this is only your third year. And one of those years you was completely out of the business. And I do remember you coming to my program with that cane and could barely move. But
Yeah.
now look at you moving forward every day now in your life and your business. Congratulations. Tyrese, so that was 3 years ago I met you. 2 years ago I met Tyrese Chapman in Atlanta. And are you there, Tyrese?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Oh, excuse me. I really wanted Quintus next, because Quintus is we're in our second year, Tyrese. Quintus is in his third year. Are you there, Quintus?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Could you share a little bit where you were when I met you and where you are today? And what was the one thing, the cultural change that you made to help your business be so successful?
Well, when you first met me, I had only made $30,000 and I was completely broke. I had $110 in my checking account, and it came to your program, and I was listening to you, and I said I have to have what it is that he's offering. And so I went home that night and I asked my wife. I said, "Look, it was $100 down and $100 a month just to go to the following week's 2 day training." And so she said, "Go ahead and do it." And so I went back the next week, and I'm just, for anybody that hear this, like, this is real. When we went back that following week for lunch, all I could do was go across the street to the CVS and get a bag of cookies. I couldn't even afford lunch. And so I went in, and just from the program, just staying faithful, and for you being gracious to me to allow me to be coached, because I knew I needed coaching. I couldn't just do this on my own. And that first year, within 9 months, I made $205,000.
Yeah,
And
and and I'll get to what cultural change you made, or what the thing that helped you the most. But I want to compliment you, because you went 3 months and didn't get an appointment, and I believe that was December, and you called me about, I got to go get a job.
yeah,
And I said, I understand, but could you get a job for the weekend and keep doing this, because you're going to be successful. I knew you were, because you were coming in and getting better. See, there's that word, getting better. So then you started getting appointments in January, and I don't think you got your first listing till March.
correct. Yeah.
And that was March through the end of the year. You made 205,000, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir. Correct.
So, can you say how much you've made the last 2 years, 2 years and a half, really? And
Yeah.
then, what was the one thing that you think that was the most important thing that the Lacey Way helped you with?
So in the last 2 years, or 2.5 years, I've made 557,000.
$557,000. You
Yes,
don't
sir.
have to eat cookies anymore for lunch.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm very appreciative of that. And then the one thing, and it's crazy that you started it off with, and that's what I was going to share. The number one thing was being proactive and not being passive. That was the number one thing that changed everything for me. But not only that, it's out, you was able to teach me and show me the difference. And I think a lot of people, just overall in real estate, what these companies do is they tell you to create websites, to do social media, to do all these different things. And people, agents think that they're being proactive, but they're not. They're being passive, because you're going to do all that stuff and you're going to put it out there and you're going to wait for somebody to respond. Well, you actually still being passive. You're not being proactive. And that just blew my mind. And then when you showed us what being proactive looks like and what it entails, that just made me stick to it and just grind at it. And you just see the fruit from it. And it's so much different than what people tell you.
You know, that there's nothing wrong with having a website, but it's almost like having when we used to send out 10,000 flyers. We never got any business from it, but we were busy, but we were busy being passive. And again, you becoming proactive. And any agent, and that's the two biggest words. You're either passive in real estate or you're proactive in your business. Amen. Well, I couldn't be happier. I guess your wife said she made the right decision by letting you write that check for $100, didn't she?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But I believed in you because you went from 1 week looking one way, and the next week you came in there looking, dressing. One of the things, what I just said this morning about how you dress and how, when you dress professionally, you act more professionally. You do more professional things than when you just walk around in your pajamas and, walk around with just slovenly or whatever. I think, and people notice that everywhere you go. It's a benefit. And I have people that say, when I go to the airport, they send me right around. I don't have to stand in line. When I go to the bank, they open another line for me, not because I own the bank, but because of how I look. When I go to the doctor's office, they take me straight back. And I guarantee you, it's because of how professionally I look and how I carry myself. It's a benefit in so many ways. Congratulations on your life.
Can I share one thing with you on what you just said?
Yes, sir.
When I first started, you told us to dress professional. I only had one suit, and I wore that suit on every presentation I went on to the office. I mean, I wore that suit till the thread started coming out of it. I have a closet full of suits now, but you challenged us. I remember it was in 2023, and you said that you were going to wear a suit every day to the office. And when you said that, I have never not worn a suit to this day. And I tell you, when I go to presentations, when I'm with people, it changes everything, the way they receive you. Yes.
You're absolutely right. And you know what? What do I have on today? A suit. Yes. And I have a couple of suits also. And I'm happy for you. I don't know if you can see my smile, but, to see people change what they do, and that changes what they have, is the greatest blessing that I receive from you. Tyrese, you're in Atlanta. I didn't say it. Vanessa's in Washington, D.C. Quintus is in Atlanta. And then where I met Quintus 2.5, 3 years ago, I met Tyrese 2 years ago, and we got started in the program last year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Very good. And can you tell us a little bit about where you were, when I met you, and where you are? And more importantly, what was the thing that has helped you the most in the changing of your business?
So I used to come to all the 2 days, and I used to be the get ready guy. And you kept on saying that to me.
So, get ready to get started, to get going, to get ready, to get ready, to get started, to get going, to get ready.
I was coming to all the programs. I had all the notebooks and everything. And, when I started that year, the first time I had 2 or 3 closes the first year. When I met you, everything changed. I went from 5 to 22 listings. Didn't have as much closings then, but it was a dramatic shift in business. And for the first time, we capped for the year already with KW. And
how's that feel?
Oh, it feels great.
And you did it by June, or around June, because this is June the 30th.
Yes, sir.
And you've already capped. So that means you get to keep 100% of everything you close the rest of this year?
It resets every calendar, but until the
Yeah.
end of the year. Yeah, close
Yeah,
to the end of the year. Yep.
correct.
But it has changed significantly. I mean, the confidence is there now. Uh, just being able to tell somebody, no, I'm not willing to work with you based on the criteria that the program has given us, it's way different. I'm more confident, and the accountability really helped because I had the notebooks, I had all the scripts. I just didn't know how to use it properly.
You know, you said a word just now a lot of people don't like: accountability. And I do hold people accountable. I was held accountable by my dad, and I was held accountable in the Marine Corps. And that's what made me great, was being held accountable and said, hey, you can do better. You're not doing this right. You need to do this. And that accountability is what made me one of the best Marines in the world. And again, I could hold myself accountable in real estate because of that. I was holding people accountable. My last year and a half in the Marine Corps, I was over half of the Marines at Camp David. I was the sergeant of the guard. And you think I hold y'all accountable? This is there's no, you couldn't handle the way I held them accountable if I held y'all accountable that way. But see, y'all are civilians, y'all are not Marines. But maybe I'm instilling a little bit of discipline and a little bit of confidence, and a lot of you can have more and do better than you're actually doing inside of you. You know, you say you came to those programs. So every time you came to a program, you just added that bill. I mean, you paid $100, I guess, or paid for it the first time, but then you started paying $100 down and $100 a month. And so that bill was adding up. But did we ever call you and say, where's our money? No.
No, you didn't.
And you kept harassing me for so long until I let you join coaching. And I did you the same way I did Quintus. I said, hey, I'll give you a 2-year contract. You just pay me from your closings. And see, I trusted in you. You trusted in me to change your life. And I trusted in you that you would fulfill your end of the deal, which both of y'all have are doing. And I appreciate that so much. You know, I think you had 6, 7, 8 closings. You got a couple pending. It's amazing how much can change in 1 year. And again, we look at Vanessa. That first year she made 30,000. That next year she'd have made 150 or 200, but she was sick. But here's where Vanessa, so many people fall down, but they never come back. And see, she came back as soon as she got well. And that year, see, she already had the basics. She just plugged in to every day getting that call to inspire and motivate and challenge. You know, accountability is you showing up every morning on the call. Accountability is you showing up at the programs. And you know what? You have become, all three of you are on the way. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you where you're going to be in a few years. Thank you. Daniel, you on the call?
Yes, sir.
Daniel Jackson is a little different. Tyrese and Quintus didn't get any business for the first 6 months. You met me in February and you harassed me until I'd let you join. In fact, but I gave you 2 things you had to do. One, you had to quit working on a team.
Yes.
And the second one, you had a coach. I don't know who your coach was. I didn't care. But I said, you can't have 2 coaches. You can only have one. You can't listen to 2 people. You have to listen to one person and do what they say. But you came to me in March or April and said, I'm not on a team and I got rid of my coach. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Could you give us a little background, how long you've been in real estate and how much you were doing when you met me and where you are today? And what was the cultural change you made?
Yes. I met you in February at one of your 2-day programs. I initially joined the program at the end of March. I have 3 years of experience in real estate. I had 0 listings. And within my first month, I gained 2 listings working with you. My second month, I got another listing. And then this month, I got 3 listings. So that's 6 in 3 months.
And how many listings did you take in the first 3 years?
0. 0.
Okay, now let's stop right now. That is a cultural change. But you've gone from being passive to proactive. And you've gone from not prospecting to calling people. And you've gone from no presentation to having a pretty good presentation. Didn't you take a listing this weekend?
Yep. That makes 6. Yes, sir.
That makes 6 listings. That's amazing. and you and I will talk over the next 30 or 60 days. If they're not selling, I'll give you the scripts to get price reductions, okay?
Yes, sir.
But again, here's 4 people that in all of them within 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and now February I met you. You got March, April, May, really April, May, and June. And in 3 months, you've taken 6 listings. Your life will be different. Congratulations. Yes, what's the cultural change? What was the thing that helped you the most or is helping you the most?
Not making any excuses. So you said there's no such thing as a great excuse. So it doesn't matter, on what level, personal or anything else, there's no excuse. We have a schedule. I'll stick to my schedule no matter what. That's my top priority. And I make sure I call. If I'm not calling, then I have nothing. So 100 calls.
So are you reading my notes? Of course, I want you to see my notes right there. See?
No, sir.
But let me just go ahead and say, thank you. I'm gonna follow you this time. Following your schedule is priceless. If you have the right schedule and you follow it, you're going to be successful. But by following your schedule is the whole thing. But see, what you and Quintus and Tyrese and Vanessa have is true belief in the program and in me. And when you have true belief, that's a power that's beyond anything you can measure. See, most people don't have belief. Just like saying, I believe I'm the best person to help someone. I want to say one more thing you said. You said there's no thing as a great excuse. I always said there's no such thing as a good excuse. It's just an excuse. And most people excuse themselves out of millions and millions of dollars by making an excuse. So I'm glad you saw my notes and you brought that up for me. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Now, if we have a little bit of time, Jenny Monahan. So Jenny Monahan's in Knoxville. Now, see, I met her 10, 12 years ago. And Jenny, you hear this one? And Jenny Monahan, click on.
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great.
How's everything in Knoxville?
Fantastic.
When I met you, you were kind of like where they were, but you'd had 4 closings in Breckenridge, Colorado, and you moved to a brand new city outside of Knoxville called Maryville.
Correct.
And so when I met you, I said, I'm going to change your life. And what'd you say?
I don't think I believed you.
I don't think you did either. Now I want everybody to hear this. At that time, she couldn't get into coach. Actually, she was going to join coaching and I wouldn't. She gave me a check, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You wrote a check there on Cedar Bluff Road for 12 or 15,000. I can't remember. And I took it and I handed it back to you and said, I'm not going to coach you. Now, how many people in the world would do that? But see, I wasn't trying to sell her. I was trying to help her. And I gave her a check back because it was like October and November. And I'd listened to her doing the class and I'd heard she had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. And I looked at her and said, Jenny, you're not going to be able to sell real estate for the next 6 months because your children are going to be sick. And she said,
my kids are never sick.
Yeah, she said, my child has never been sick. And I said, that's the key word, child. Now you got children, they're going to be passing it back and forth. And 6 months later, what had happened?
We were sick all the time.
This is why I said, you've got to listen to me when I tell you something's going to happen, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen when your life is going to change. I'll tell you if you can change your life. I'll tell you what stops you. I'll tell you what you need to change. But you were in the 180 program where you got, with no Zoom call, it was you dialed in once a month and it was a 20 or 30 minute call. It was $180 if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And if you went in on the call, there was no recording it and sending it out to you. But you better be on that call. But you went from 0 closings, basically, when you were there in Maryville, to 12 closings that first year.
Yes.
And then you went on to join coaching and had 31, 33, 48, 50, and 52. Now 10, 12 years later, you have 3 teenage girls. You have a husband. You have life. But now I want to come to the wow part of the call. The wow. In 1991, I took 68 listings, had 60 closings. I took 70, had 75 closings, took 83 listings. Had 163 closings, had 100. The number of listings I have are the number of closings that I have. So now we move up from 1990 something to 2025. Jenny, how many listings have you taken this year?
21.
21. How many active do you have? Do you know how many active you have right now?
7.
How many pending?
5.
5 pending. And how many closings have you had this year?
21.
There's the aha moment, guys. If you will go out and get the listings the way Andrew says, and come in each day and build this business through inventory, you will directly how many closings you're going to have. Do you have a culture change you think of, or do you have something that's the aha that helped you the most that you could share just in a second or two?
So I'm going to use my Andrew Laceyism. When I moved to Maryville, I was like a chicken with my head cut off, running, chasing after this, doing that. Everybody in the office was trying to tell me how to run my business. And then once I met Andrew, it was like I was a chicken on a June bug. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I was going after those listings. Having that control of my schedule and knowing exactly what I needed to come in and do each day was a game changer for me.
Thank you for that Andrewism about chickens. I appreciate that. That's very good. It makes me sound so smart. But I'm from the country, I gotta say. I will admit to that. But you know what? It is, we don't have to attack, but it is when we see that opportunity every day. You know, you have an opportunity to make how much money each day there in Maryville?
10 to 20,000.
And your income last year was around 300, was that right?
Right at 300.
300. And what's your income through the first 6 months of this year?
I've made just a little over $200.
$2?
200.
200,000. Some agents haven't made $2 this year. So 200. So in a year and a half, you made $500,000. Do you work weekends?
No, sir.
No. Jenny, and the people that's on the call today, or the people that are new to the program, this is where you'll be one day. You get to work 5 days a week. You look happy. I guarantee you, she's smiling right now from ear to ear. She's happy. She's confident. And she knows that she has a true business that she controls. The market, the economy, and no person controls her business. God's in control, but she's in control of her business. Amen. Jake, are you on the call? 2 more people. What time of day is it?
11:37.
I knew I went over. Jake, Jenny,
Yes, sir. Good
Good
morning.
morning. How's Jake Travis doing?
Couldn't be better, boss.
Jake, I actually coached your dad in the early 2000s. You know, don't ask him to call and get his money back because it wasn't very good, but he still did okay. But when you went into real estate, your dad had you come see me. But you did actually listen to my cassettes, I guess, going to school years ago or on the coaching call.
That's right.
I'm sorry for that punishment. But little did you know in the 6th or 7th grade that one day I would be your coach.
That's right.
Can you kind of take us again? I would like these new people to hear that you were not an immediate success. You went from, you know, I guess I met you your first year in real estate.
That's right. Yeah, I came out of college and went in and started working for the city, and I did that for a couple of years, and then got my real estate license. And I would say I didn't really make my wife, Chelsea, my wife and I, we lived off of her teacher's salary for probably 3 to 4 years before I started making a substantial income. I think my first year in real estate, I maybe made 30, 35.
Yep.
Yeah, and it wasn't until my 4th year I was able to join the program. I would come to programs, so you allowed me to come to 2 days, and I could create a tab, if you will, and pay $100 each month. And so I would come to probably, I don't know, every time you did one in Greenville and Spartanburg and then Atlanta, I would go to those. And then finally, after 4 years of doing that, I created enough and saved enough to where I could join under Alan. And it was 2 years under Alan before I then have now been coaching with you.
Let's take us through your last year or two. Let's take it through last year and right now, kind of. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, last year I had the best year of my career. I had about 37 closings. And my income for that year was a little over 400.
4,000. And what type of agent are you that these people don't know?
We're fully commercial.
Commercial. So all your 30-something closings was commercial.
That's correct.
Amazing. And this past year, you were honored, I believe.
That's right. I was honored to be in the top 100 of SVN. There's about 2,000 agents across the country. And yeah, I was able to make the top 100, and I got to walk across the stage in San Antonio this year, and it was something I always hear you talking about with Coldwell Banker. I never thought I would be in a position to do something similar. Obviously not like you in the top 10, but yeah, it was just it was surreal. It was incredible to kind of, I was there.
My favorite type of person to work with, and I share there's 5 different types of people that come to my program, and some that know everything I cannot help, and some that won't listen unless I can get them to learn to listen. I can't help them. But the person that goes, well, I didn't believe I could ever do this, and I knew they could, and I told you could. I told you one day you would be the best, and you have become the best. So how many listings have you taken this year? And do you show your TAPs? TAPs, for anyone that doesn't know, in the Lacey program is listings taken, active listings pending, and sales. So would you share your TAPs?
Yes, I have taken 16 listings. I have 28 active. I have 9 pending, and I have closed 15.
So you've had taken 16 and closed 15. Is there a common denominator running through the internet right now through our program? Yeah, it is. Congratulations. Oh, what's the cultural thing that, you grew up with a great mom, a great dad, they held you accountable. You were, you had a great childhood, but what do you think is one of the things the Lacey Way has helped you the most in?
Man, that's a tough question, boss.
If you don't have an answer, that's okay.
I would say
you could say I'm giving you a couple of scripts that have made you a couple of $100,000.
Yeah, I would say scripting is definitely helpful, but the program for me is a constant reminder of getting up, thinking positive, and showing up for work every day, expecting business and to help somebody. And that has been repeated in my life, like you mentioned, since I was in the 7th grade. And that is ingrained in my brain, that you get up, you're thankful, and you go find somebody to help. And if you do that Monday through Friday each day, your life will forever change. No, and that's probably the biggest takeaway that the program has given to me. It's just given me that mindset, and it's the program, but at the end of the day, it's you. So can't thank you enough.
I'm going to piggyback on you like I did Daniel. There's 3 words that I use that help me to be who I am. My attitude. My attitude is always positive. My approach. Somebody needs my help today. And the expectation is someone's going to allow me to help them. Attitude, approach, and expectations. And you just said your expectation is every day someone is going to do business and someone needs your help. That's it right there. We have time for one more. Marie, are you on the call? Thank you, Jake. Tell your mom and dad I said hello.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Marie. How are you today?
Great.
Well, I'm going to real quickly say, when you came to my seminar, I thought you were from someone that was off the street because, you look like a homeless person. And I hate to say it that way, but I asked one buddy, I goes, that person's supposed to be in my seminar. And they said, yeah, I invited her dad and her to come. And I said, okay. And I don't think I ever saw you for the next 5 years. I mean, you would come to classes. You're like Jake. He could only come to the seminars, that were close by. You're like Quintus that didn't have any money. But basically, could you just kind of say your first couple of years, you just you were not an overnight success, is what I'm trying to show everyone today.
Yes, sir. I would do it all over again. I didn't have any money. I would just keep coming to programs, but I could not afford a hotel room or gas or lunch. So I would just come to the Greenville or Spartanburg.
Mm-hmm.
And, $11,000 my first year in real estate. And then I doubled my income to 22,000 the next year. But every year was a little better than the year before. And we finally reached that point where I could afford to hire you. And I remember it because it was my husband's birthday. And I had enough money to pay my mortgage for one more month. And I took all the money out to hire you. And I remembered that you said this today, but you gave her check back. And so I did not want to tell you that I was pregnant when I hired you because I was worried you wouldn't let me be in coaching. So I just said we were thinking of having a baby. But of course, the rest of that story is that I only worked 6 months and I doubled my business from 45,000 to 90,000. And everything since then is just, I'm on my 8th best year ever. I've made over 250,000 this year already. And it's just the Lacey Way is such a blessing.
So I wish people could chart you and other people that were not successful in the beginning, but they didn't give up. They didn't quit. They kept coming back until they could afford. And then you got to a point that you was making 150,000. And then you got to a point you was making 200,000. But by making changes, this is the part, getting better, and doing more of the program, doing a little bit more. The last 3 years, how much money have you made each year?
Over $400,000 a year.
And you're the person that made 11,000 or 22,000 that first year.
That's right.
And now you're making 400 a year.
Never give up.
You work 5 days a week.
5 days a week.
Do you have a team?
No.
No team. And you're going to have, again, 80 something closings this year, working 5 days a week with no team. Marie, I was going to ask your caps, listings taken, active, pending, and your closing sales. So could you share that with me?
Oh, yes. 43, 20, 15, and 43.
So you've taken 43 listings in the first 6 months. You have how many active? 20 something?
20 active.
20 active. How many pending?
15.
15 pending. And you've had 43 closings. 43 listings taken, 43 closings. All three of these people, the same amount of listings is the same number of closings. And this is why you have the ability to determine the amount of business you do. Congratulations, Marie. As recently, you were telling me in your MLS there's 2,000 people, and counting teams, you're number 12, and counting individuals, you're number 3, 4, or 5. And I told you to take that every time you go on a presentation and show them that. And I gave you a script. I'm not going to give it to everybody because it's a privileged script because she's in coaching. But I gave her something that people will list with her before they'll list with a team, because one script Andrew gave her. So many times people want to come and think they're going to get something for free. You do get something for free. You get to see people whose lives have changed. You get to see a program that would change your life, but they don't want to commit, or they don't want to feel, well, that's a lot of money to pay $900 to come to a seminar. Well, that book I have is worth more than $1 million. Because here's a person in the last 3 years has made $1.2 million because of the Lacey Way. When you decide that you would like to have that change in your life. It's a different culture by having the opportunity every day to have someone get up, get dressed, come to the office with the only thought of making that person on the other end of the phone or the other end of the camera better. That's it. Congratulations, Marie. Congratulations, Jake. Congratulations, Jeannie. Congratulations, Vanessa. Congratulations, Quintus. Congratulations, Tyrese. Congratulations on your start, Daniel. You're starting to begin. And it's why I wanted Jeannie in Knoxville and Jake in Atlanta and Marie in Easley, South Carolina. I wanted you to show where you will be one day if you continue to give me the opportunity to help make you better and give you more. If you need anything from me, don't hesitate to call me. My office number is 864-595-7000. Or how about if you want to call me directly, 864-909-1258, 864-909-1258, or 864-909-0705. You know, there's a culture change. I still use a phone to talk. And that's a story for another day. Hope to talk to you soon. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.